here are our revenue projection, our actual revenues for the first quarter of FY18. If you recall, our budget is $38,115,065, and those are all the areas that support the budget, from the assessments all the way through Chapter 70 monies, etc. Year to date, we have received about just about 28% of the funds, and that we have it established with both of the towns that, throughout the year, we get monies from them. So we're right on target, right where we should be. Our year-to-date expenditures, sorry about the font. We have a year-to-date expenditure of $8.6 million with an encumbrance of $27 million, and with an unencumbered budget of balance of 5.67%. It's almost exactly what it was last year at this time. I did a comparative. There are a couple of areas that are, causing me a little bit of concern. One is not a couple of areas, just one area is our program with other school districts, and that is because of our assessments going out for school choice and charter schools. They're under budget in the FY18 budget, so we're going to have to be keeping track of those. There will be a readjustment based on our October 1 numbers that we get in December. So just track it for now, and we'll see where we are. The other area that you see is in the minus will be addressed with budget transfers coming up, and the fixed charges, even though right now it reflects $6,767 in the minus, we'll be fine in that area as well. So the narrative that I sent, overall, that we're in good shape, we're right where we want to be, but as I said, the charter and the school choice tuitions out are just causing me a little bit of other than that. So I don't know if anybody has any questions, and I hope you found the narrative a little helpful that overlays the finance, the numbers that go as well.
Anybody questions, Mr.
Any question on the tuition in and out? And I think I asked this a couple of years ago. I have a 1-year duration, and I forget that I even asked the question, so bear with me. Let's say optimistically the amount you estimate for Sturgis transfers a lighthouse comes in at far less than what's there, not transfer up, but far less. So 10 or 11 kids didn't go, and at some point during the year, do you transfer that back out with the school committee to another account, or?
Well, there are two different things. We get the money in for we get monies in from the state as for our charter school as a calculation, and if you go back on the revenue page, even though our expenditures out for school choice and charter school the charter school is just about $1.2 million. What we're going to be receiving from the Commonwealth for charter reimbursements is $90,000. Although this year, it may be a little bit more. So we get $90,000 in, and then we will be sending out 1.2. If it turns out in December, let's say, that we have fewer tuitions going out and it comes in right at budget, that's wonderful. Or if we have to send fewer dollars over to that line, what it will be is it'll just go back to the overall budget. We don't transfer it into a separate account. It's the revenues coming in that go into the revolving revenue account, if that makes sense.
Yes, and I should be able to remember that for at least another year.
Oh, no.
Give you 6
Based on that alone.
Any other questions regarding the year-to-date report? All right. Thank you.
Okay.
Let's see what's up next. Budget transfer. That's what this thing is.
Okay. So,
We need it really quick.
also in the packet that I sent you was the narrative about the budget transfers, and what I think about these are kind of the year beginning housekeeping that we need to take place. When we set the budget, we're budgeting as we see, but then a teacher might relocate. As you know, we moved our kindergarten teacher over to Howard Elementary from town, so there might be some budget transfers that are impacted, and we need to just do some housekeeping in that area. But there's one mistake that I had made, and it's a correction. And just a reminder to everybody, when we do budget transfers, it's going from one cost center to the next. So we vote our budget by the 1,000s, 2,000s, et cetera. And within those 1,000s and 2,000s, it's salaries and expenses. So if it's going between the two, the school committee also approves that. So when we have, I think it's a total of 5 budget transfers. The first one involves the cost center, the 1,000s, and we had well, it's 3, but the third one has a few different ones in it. Okay.
We're nervous.
So we had a $65,000 VIPS volunteer public schools position that we had budgeted. But when we did the budget, we had budgeted in contracted services. But when I reduced the budget, I reduced it out of salary. So I took it out of the wrong bucket of money. It doesn't impact the 1,000 overall, but it's just a little housekeeping that has to be transferred in between. The second area is, and I issued all of you a new chart of accounts from the Department of Ed. The Department of Ed has changed how they want us to track professional development. And some of it we had put ours in contracted services, and now some things are spread out that need to be reported in salaries as well as contracted services. And interestingly, one of the things we need to track differently is they now have a category for substitutes, and a second one for long-term substitutes. So this is an overall. So that's kind of a housekeeping between the two expense and salary lines. And then the third group of transfers, we set aside a salary line, a line item for contractual obligations, for lien changes, and any kind of salary increase that might take place. And we budget that in the 2000s line, because probably 95% of those are in 2000s, but there are a couple of adjustments that are moving from the 2000s into a 1,000 account. I don't know if anyone has any more questions about that.
Any questions? Okay, so would anybody care to make a motion or three? Mr. DeVaul?
Thank you. I noticed you did not give us the votes for the first 2 transfers, and that's because it's just staying within the...
Yes, exactly.
Perfect, I like that.
Okay, all right.
You'd like to read the code now.
I move that we transfer from district leadership and administrative expenses $65,000 to district leadership and administration salary and wages $65,000.
And a second?
I would second that.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? That is unanimous. Mr. DeVaul?
I then also move that we transfer in the 2000s account from instruction expenses $58,402 to instruction salary and wages $58,402.
And a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? That is unanimous. Mr. DeVaul?
And I also move under contractual obligation in the 2000 account, transfer from 1,023.05 110 001 3450 contractual $3,088 to 1,030 1210 200 105 005 0722 superintendent clerical $450 longevity, and 1,030 1410 200 150 005 0782 business and finance other salaries $2,638 position adjustment.
And a second? Second. Thank you. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? And that is unanimous as well.
And just, I had sent along, and Barbara forwarded to you, the new chart of accounts from the Department of Ed, that when I had given to all the school committee members those chart of accounts. They're also now taking a look at how we report technology, and we'll be splitting out technology their intention and their hope is that we'll get this information so that before the year starts, those adjustments are already made, but it may be after our budget season, but it should be minimal. But they're just looking at kind of fine tuning some of the cost centers.
I like the change for the long-term subs and substitutes. It's a good one.
Yeah, it is good.
Any other questions for Ms. Arsenio? Of which I'm pretty sure you can just stay up there still, because the next item on our agenda is a preliminary FY19 budget discussion with a timeline and strategic plan. Yeah, safety the law.
Yeah, I do chuckle that, okay, we've spent 3 months in FY18, now we'll be in 19, and anyway. So in your packet is the timeline for the budget activity, and hopefully there are a couple of dates that just need to be tweaked a little bit. So tonight, we're right on target. We're doing our preliminary budget discussions as we said we would. And then next Tuesday, we've been invited to attend the budget summit at the Chatham Board of Selectmen and Finance Committee joint, I think. We've already uploaded the FY19 budget and sent out the information to the principals for them to be looking at their current budgets. And Barbara has been very busy scheduling budget conversations with all the principals. I think it's important for everybody to know that what happens is that the administrative team with the superintendent meets with each of the principals. We meet with the athletic director, with the director of technology, facilities director, and as well as director of student services and curriculum. And talk about the budget priorities, where we are, and then that's how the budget all gets built. It's not done in isolation with just a couple of us behind closed doors. And then we bring those discussions to the finance subcommittee to talk about what we're hearing from the principals, what the needs are, and everything from staff to capital to curriculum to special needs. It's all pretty involved conversation. So those meetings are all in the process of being scheduled between now and the middle of November. And then we'll all have a nice restful Thanksgiving. And then we'll be meeting with the budget subcommittees in December, at the very end of November, to start talking about framing the FY19 budget. And then you can follow all the way through the draft, and then with the bottom line being town meetings in May, and we need to have a budget vote at least 45 days before town meeting, and that's what we have on schedule for March 8th, 2018.
Any questions regarding our budget timeline? Mr. Duvall?
Have we gotten requests from any of the finance committees or Board of Selectmen for early meetings with them?
So we're going to go next Tuesday just to listen to the budget message in
That's
Chatham.
fine.
And then, if true to form, last year we went at the end of January to both towns, to Harwich and to Chatham, the very end of January. So I just put it ahead a year, assuming that we would go. I have not, Scott might be able to, superintendent might be able to update you on any invitations that maybe have been extended, but not so far. We've had some preliminary discussions with the finance committee that the finance team that Don alluded to with the two town managers, just the Chatham one, right? Yeah. But the two town managers, town accountants, the treasurer, superintendent, and I meet. We're going to talk about what woes we have facing the 19 budget, and then we'll go when we're asked.
Any other questions for Ms. Arsenio? All right, I think you can sit down now.
Okay.
We're good with you for now. All right, so next up on our agenda, we're going to pull off we might come back to a reporter discussion when Mr. Dixon arrives. So we move on to subcommittee reports. Seeing none, we'll move on to the superintendent's report. Mr. Carpenter.
I apologize in advance. We want to get out by 11, is that right?
I think she might just keep over right now.
First, just a quick appreciation. Our Boosters Club, which is supporting Monomoy Athletics, had their first golf tournament, and it was for a group that was having a golf tournament organized by a bunch of parents who aren't really golfers themselves, and for their first time running it, my understanding is they earned more than $5,000 towards supporting our student athletes. So I really congratulate them in their efforts to get that organization off the ground. And I know that there was a lot of work that went behind the scenes with a lot of different parents to make that happen. So congratulations to them. I also want to express an appreciation to Principal Wilson at the middle school and a number of parents who were hosting some students from Beijing this past week. So on very short notice, I got an email that was entitled "Help" on September 17th because there was a group of 20 students coming from China that didn't have host families to stay with. And I said, I'm sure that we can do something to go find host families. And in the course of about a week, we were able to go and find families to host the middle school age group of that contingent. And then there were some upper elementary ones that went to one of the sort of lower grade level schools in DY. But it was nice over the last couple days bumping into some of the parents that were hosting students, and they were just on cloud nine, with the connections that they were making, and just the cultural exchange that was happening in the houses. And as I was walking out of their little sort of going away ceremony last night at the middle school, because students were now heading back after a visit that went from October 2nd to the 13th. These parents were grabbing me saying, just plan on going to the school committee sometime in the spring to go and talk about when we're going to visit our families in China. So it was quite touching, the ceremony, and just seeing all these kids together in the cafeteria last night eating pizza, including some that I think were trying to figure out, some of the Chinese students trying to figure out. I think that, they were so used to eating pizza or eating things a certain way, and it's like, okay, how to pick up the pizza or not, and so, but absolutely fantastic. And they were singing songs for our students joined them for on stage as well. So great time. I also put in your packet I think it's in black and white, but just in your packet a presentation that that Carl and I briefly shared with the Harwich Elementary staff called "Establishing Monomoy's Learning Principles in a Practice of Instructional Rounds." And this really tags on to the conversation we had at the last school committee meeting on my goals and how we'll be focusing this year on learning principles within the district, but also a practice of working collaboratively with our principals in central office to establish a practice of instructional rounds to help our administrators become better coaches of teachers in the classroom. I would also gladly yield the floor for a minute, because I'm sure you don't want to hear me talk much longer, but in your packets as well, there is a sheet on some professional development opportunities that teachers had. Last Friday was the All-Cape Professional Development Day, and I'll just turn things over to Carla briefly to just talk about some of the opportunities that our teachers had. I know sometimes parents wonder, okay, there wasn't school last Friday. What were the teachers doing?
They were doing a lot of things. I'm just going to go down the list because I know not everybody is seeing this. We had 59 staff members that went out of the district because the October 6th day is also the all-K in-service day. And so there are a lot of workshops that are offered for traditionally instructional assistants, non-core academic teachers, and student support staff. So we had teachers that were participated in early childhood education for math, literacy, and STEM workshops. Our nurses went out to 21st century school nursing workshop. We had our health and PE staff go into a project adventure training. Our library and media staff went to learn about how to kind of connect with the world in their library media and digital content. Fine and performing arts, we had some staff members go to some workshops in digital arts, and also our music teachers for learning about music across disciplines. We had some staff attend a social emotional learning workshop, meeting the challenge of students with social emotional learning issues. Our world language staff, some of them went to a workshop for foreign languages for everyone. And there was a critical thinking instructional strategies workshop. So that was all offered through the collaborative and the all-K in-service. In district, our Chatham and Harwich elementary teachers met together, and they had two morning and afternoon sessions so that all teachers could rotate in and do multiple trainings. We have a group of K-2 teachers who have volunteered to do a pilot in a program called Words Their Way, which is a foundational skills program. And so the trainer came and worked them through the program, and she's going to come several times throughout the year and help support so that we can get some good data on that pilot and decide whether or not we want to go forward with that full purchase. And then, very exciting, our elementary teachers have really latched on to using the math data. And so they have been engaged in learning how to interpret those bridging class breakdown and learning continuum. We had two trainings the end of September and in MAP, and we're just keep kind of digging deeper and deeper and learning how to use that tool to inform instruction. So the teachers at the elementary level have really embraced that tool, to help differentiate their classrooms. And so I think Mrs. Oldak could really share in her enthusiasm and seeing how all of a sudden it's like, okay, now I get it, now I want to take the time. So we had some teachers that created some reports. The kindergarten staff from the two schools got together and did some data analysis and made some intervention planning. We also had a continuation of math and focus training using the Everyday Counts calendar, which is a calendar that really helps to reinforce number sense and using the daily and weekly, the weekly and monthly calendar. So students, teachers were creating some higher order thinking questions about the calendar and how students can practice their math facts and number sense. And then the staff, so if they did that in the morning, then they did something in the afternoon. And then the language arts unit planning, a group got together to continue with that, and that's related and linked to our course reading pathway unit development. At the middle school, we continued with developing teacher capacity around the one-to-one initiative that's going on in that school. Mr. Wilson had offered a training right before school began through Ed Tech Teachers, which is a great educational training company in using instructional technology in the classroom out of Cambridge. And he offered this kind of voluntary, and about 25 of his staff jumped on it on their own time and came in the summer to get a head start on using the one-to-ones for their instructional practice in the classroom. And so we brought back the ed tech teachers teacher trainers for those staff that weren't able to make it in the summer. So half the staff kind of were able to catch up on that training on October 6th. And then we had our instructional teacher, technology teacher leader lead some next steps for those staff that had already had the training in the ed tech, and that was in grading and Google. And then there was a group of teachers that got together in the afternoon and worked on developing their community service learning units. So that happened at the middle school, and then the high school's all about NEASC. We have two incredible co-chairs that have done it. In my experience, because I've been through NEASC a lot, they're just doing a really great job, Deb Donovan and Rachel Barnes, and they organized the whole day in opening up. The staff got together and they looked at the community profile and the 21st century rubrics, and then all staff have been divvied up into the 7 committees, and they're working on their self-study. So they've spent the better part of the day writing their reports, or at least beginning to write the reports. We got a lot of pings and email as they're coming up with questions, and as they try to find the answers to their certain indicators in their reports. Holly Thing, every time we have in-service, she is able to work with the administrative assistants. She does about a half-day training with them, helping them to feel more comfortable with how to deal with the SIMS data and the EPIMS data and the state reporting. So she has a really great team that she works with in the building-based administrative assistants. Some instructional assistants at the high school had requested training in CPR, so we were able to bring in a trainer to offer that. And last but not least, Ms. McGuire brought 15 volunteer staff representing K-12 down to Barnstable High School for a full day of training in collaborative problem solving, which is part of the Think Kids. Is it like a consortium, just Think Kids? Okay. The director, as you say, was there, and this is a train-the-trainer model. So these staff will go through 2 more trainings, and then next year the entire district will be trained. And I yield to Ms. McGuire for any expertise, but I did give you a little bit of an explanation about what that entails. Any questions?
Apparently they were busy.
Yes.
Any questions about the professional? Ms. Brooks?
Just a quick question. I was wondering, from the All Cape in-service workshop topics compared to the morning and afternoon sessions, how is it determined that 59 left? Was that their choice to go, or
well, ordinarily, when we're planning a full-day professional development on the in-service is really targeted for specific educators. And so the booklet is sent out to those specific.
and they choose? Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you. That's on you, Mr. Carpenter.
All right, just other things to report back on. This past Tuesday, I had the pleasure of attending the Harwich Selectmen's meeting and shared with them the enrollment report that I presented to this committee. The long and short that I shared with them is that the enrollment for the district's flat. This year compared to last year, I anticipate that it's going to stay relatively flat for the upcoming few years, and just emphasize that until that, what we currently have a bubble of students in 5th grade, and when that bubble of students starts to hit the high school, we're going to start to see our district enrollment tail off. And so at the moment, we're seeing some declines in enrollment at the elementary level, increases in enrollment at the middle school and high school level, but shared with them my concerns at the elementary school. One of them is that there's a potential that we're going to see a progressive imbalance between Harwich Elementary and Chatham Elementary. I said that will be a conversation I'll be having with parents over the next couple weeks here in our district, but it's something that I think we're going to need to grapple with as two towns. The other thing I shared is just that the concern that the decline in elementary enrollment, which isn't due to school choice out of the district, is something that our two towns really need to look at community solutions to address. And, suggested that, that we need to make sure that, that young families, including young families that work for our towns, our teachers, our firefighters, our policemen, can afford to live in Harwich and Chatham, and what sort of solutions might be available on that end. But also, that we should consider using resources to provide things like some sort of free preschool experience or free even daycare type of experience that could provide a means for students to get some basic early skills to help them be better ready for kindergarten and better ready for first grade, and that something like that could be something that would help young families find Harwich and Chatham affordable. So, that's a conversation I started last year at the Chatham Selectmen, and it's a drum that I'll continue to beat forward. And I know that Mary Oldak has been participating in sort of the early education group here in this area of the Cape, and I know is very supportive of that as well. In terms of those community conversations that we will have, I'll be putting this out tomorrow, but I'll be inviting parents to join me before school at Chatham Elementary School next Monday for a conversation in the cafeteria. Next Thursday at 6:30 p.m. So at Chatham Elementary School, it's going to be right after the school opens at 7:45 in the morning. At 6:30 p.m. on Thursday, I'll be at the middle school library talking with parents. The following Monday, October 23rd, I'll be at the Harwich Elementary School in their library, or in their community room in the morning. And on the 25th of October, I'll be in the library here in the evening to, again, have more conversations with parents. Other dates for the committee to hopefully put on their calendars. I know that in your packets, there's a invitation to the high school's Breakfast of Excellence, where they celebrate MCAS perfect scores, students that receive the Adams scholarships, and students that excelled in the individual placement exams. So that is Tuesday the 24th at 8:15 here at the high school. So if you have the opportunity to join us, it's a great celebration of success. And then last but not least, in terms of my report, and I was kind of mentioning that, Nancy, that I'd like us to go back, if we have time, to talk a little bit about budget for a moment. But I recently had the opportunity to visit a lifelong friend at the Meridian Technology Center, which is a technology VOTEC school in Stillwater, Oklahoma. And it was really a great facility and a resource for the region, and educational option for students. And I think that visit really reminded me of the importance to advocate strongly for things that I value dearly. And to that end, 15 to 20% of our current students that are in preschool through grade 8 historically will end up choosing a vocational opportunity or a vocational experience for high school. And I want to make sure that someone in my position is advocating strongly for them. So in your packets, there is a letter to the editor that I have sent to the Cape Cod Times to express my support for the Cape Tech project. And I'll just read what I wrote in exactly 200 words, which is their limit. I know it's probably shocking for you that I could do anything in 200 words, but it says, when I came to Monomoy Regional Schools a little over 4 years ago, I viewed my primary mission as enhancing and expanding the educational experiences for our children. Our district constructed a new high school, providing a modern facility that can support an enhanced educational program. A new Cape Tech will similarly provide a state-of-the-art facility that can support improved learning opportunities for students. Technical high schools aren't in competition with our local schools. The choice of a technical high school versus a more college preparatory experience is one families must make for their children as they prepare for ninth grade. For some students, technical high school experience is the right choice, and these children equally deserve facilities capable of offering high-quality experiences. Technical high school graduates become the foundation of our local economy. Our local builders, electricians, plumbers, landscapers, restaurants, marine and automotive businesses rely on Cape Tech to provide the next generation of skilled tradespeople who provide such services for year-round residents and seasonal guests. In short, I just strongly hope that people will support this endeavor when it goes before the ballot on October 24th. That would be the end of my report.
Good. Any questions from Mr. Carpenter?
I would just say that
Ms.
I think that that's a wonderful letter because the point about it not being competitive, we're talking about competition pretty much every sentence we use. But those are our kids. So thank you.
I think that's what we, in this intense competitive landscape of school choice on the Cape, lose track of. That these are our kids, and if I came to this district to support educational opportunity, I need to go and be consistent and support educational opportunity for our kids, because the kids that are at Cape Tech are our kids.
You're here. Any other questions? All right, so we're actually going to back up, and we kind of missed a little part of our preliminary FY19 budget discussion. It was the budget timeline which we were presented with, and then there was also a strategic plan piece that we want to filter into that discussion as well.
Yeah,
Mr. Kirk.
and this can be really quick, but I over the last 4 school committee meetings, as I've gone through the different components of the strategic plan, at the last line we called the Russell section of each initiative was, what's it going to cost? And so I have a list of what those items are that we had, but and I just want to kind of bring it up with the committee, also bring up what I see as some of the other things that the district needs, because we're launching in. By the time we meet next, Katie and I will be meeting with our principals and starting to talk about FY19. And it was nice. The other day we were at our admin meeting, and I said, "Oh, I hope you enjoyed September. It's now time to talk about budget." And so we're back in it. But this also I want to have as a little bit of a give and take, because I know you all have wants, or may have wants, that you want to see us think about putting into that first iteration of a budget, and ultimately it's going to come back here for conversation, debate, and what can we afford in the end. But we've got to start having those conversations about what does the committee want to make sure that we're putting in there. So things on that strategic plan list. We've talked about elementary reading resources, making sure that we have math and focus consumables, money to do a Bonhart training, or Bonhart training. The thing I've been advocating for the last year, money for a VIPS coordinator. We have talked briefly with the school committee, but at the administrative level, of not only having the NES process for the high school, but really to look at having Monomoy go through an accreditation process as a district, which would end up, again, costing money to go through that process. We've talked in the strategic plan is a want for 1.5 enrichment teachers at the elementary level. Sharon would kick me under the table if I did not mention funding for social emotional learning curricula.
That's right.
We started for 1 year to do a pilot of diversity training with an organization called Visions, and we've talked about wanting to see that continue in the district, but that takes money to engage with them. We also had, in the last part of the strategic plan, talked about expanding the winter athletics at the middle school There's, at the moment, it's basketball, and are there other things that we could do for our middle school students to have them engaged, involved, and running around, and have talked about doing some sort of introduction of volleyball in the system, and maybe that's happening at the middle school level, and then starts the foundation for a high school volleyball program. Not in the strategic plan explicitly, but things I know that you heard when Principal Wilson was giving his report on his school improvement plan. The middle school is understaffed, in particular when it comes to clinician counseling people. We could really use a 1 FTE of that ilk at the middle school. I also feel that we need to really be looking at some part-time clerical support for our athletic director so that she can be successful in the role that she's fulfilling in our district. So those are just sort of like quick cliff notes of things that we're thinking about, things we need to think about as we have our conversations with principals and include in. But I want to kind of open it up for, are there other things that we should be putting in the first draft? Because it's much easier to put them in on the first draft than to go along the budget process and try to put them back in.
Miss Stout, your hand popped up quick.
Yes, I have spoken several times about the 2010 strategic plan that Chatham had done, and where we had hired a 2-day consultant, professional consultant, and we had representatives sent from every single church group in the town, any adult club that might be going on, any, Cape Verdean group, any of that. So we had a good representation of the town, and it was a fabulous thing. And we are always asking our towns to support us, but sometimes a lot of our townspeople don't really have any good idea what we're doing, and they don't feel very involved. But with this right, having one member from each of these groups who reported back to their groups, they got a real feel, and they had a real part in developing a strategic plan. I know that involves money. I think it's hugely well spent, and I would like to see a budget for that.
I would agree. So I think we've actually gone back in and looked at what the cost of the consultant was, and we can add that into our list.
And we did it at Chatham Bryson, but we wouldn't need to do that. We just need the consultant to do it.
We're going to the Waquasit this time.
Okay. Fine with me.
Who's that, John?
Ms. Richardson.
On the list you presented, I have some thoughts and questions, but I'm not prepared to talk about them tonight. And so, A, I was wondering if there might be another time, and B, given the opportunity to think of some things we might want, is there an opportunity?
There are. This is a very preliminary first go. So
Okay.
I think we should have this as a agenda item at our next meeting as well. And I suspect that F-119 will be an agenda item probably from now until town meeting. So
Very good. Thank you.
If we look at the timeline, the meetings with the principals and the administrators begins
I know.
towards the beginning of November, and we do have one more meeting prior to that even. So
I'll be ready.
And I'll take this list, type it up, add Sharon's contribution and any others that we have.
Okay.
any other questions or discussion for the budget? All right. Mr. Dixon hasn't seemed to have made it to this, to discuss his stand trip, but I think, go ahead.
I'll tag team with Carla on this one, maybe.
This is not a new trip.
Yeah, it's a trip that every year since I've been here, we have had a stand trip and have approved a stand trip. There's some timeliness to this because Mr. Dixon needs to go and get the tickets, and I'm just buying time so he can walk in and talk about it.
Well done, sir.
Great timing, John. It's all yours.
Amazing.
That was amazing timing. Mr. Dixon,
stopped
please
talking
take a
about
stand.
I've warmed him up.
Your ears were burning down the hall the whole way.
Yes. Howdy, folks.
Nice to see you.
Nice to see you. Thank you all very much for hearing me tonight. As I believe you have the proposal in front of us for our annual trip, it's become an annual trip. This will be, I think, the 6th year in a row and the 10th, I think, trip overall of these DC trips to national conferences in Washington on anti-genocide activism. This trip we will be leaving on Veterans Day in the morning. The conference will actually be the next day. That's Saturday. The conference will be on Sunday, and Monday will be a lobbying day on Capitol Hill, which is always part of these conferences. We spend the day with the experts in the field, with the STAN national leadership. They have a series of asks, a series of bills that are pending that they want us to push our legislators to support. We learn about those bills and prepare a presentation, and the students go and give a presentation to each. It's usually the staffers. Well, it's pretty much always the staffers, which is actually who you want to talk to. But legislators usually are not there on Mondays. But you want to talk to staffers because they're the ones who have the legislators' ear when those issues come up. Legislators can't be expert in all of them. But we did have a wonderful visit with Keating last year. Not actually when we had the initial meeting, but we ended up back in his office to pick up our bags, and Representative Keating walked in and we had a great visit with him. So it's a great it's a great experience. It's a really formative experience for kids to become expert in some of these issues and to have the experience of lobbying their members of Congress. This year we had the bonus of arriving there at 9 a.m. on Veterans Day in Arlington. And so after dropping our bags, we planned to head right to the National Cemetery for the Veterans Day observance, which of course is at 11 a.m. So our timing should be just right, as long as we hopefully won't have any delays in our flights.
Any questions for Mr. Dixon?
Sounds amazing.
It does.
Should be fun.
John, a quick question. The 12 youngsters named, would any of them be second-time kids?
Yeah, many of them.
Terrific.
Have been there. I had, one of them is the third time going on this trip, at least one, maybe more than one. I had one student in the past who set a record going for 4 in 4 straight years.
You just couldn't get it.
Yeah. I don't have anyone on the 4th trip this year. But,
Terrific.
We've been doing this once a year for, let's say, about the last 6 years, and we used to do it about every other year before that.
Is this the whole STEM committee that's going?
Yeah, no, it's Stand is somewhat of a fluid membership depending on the day. I mean, we had about 50 kids out there doing water stations. It was both STAN and Global Studies kids, and there's a lot of overlap between STAN and Global Studies kids. So depending on the day and what we're doing, we can have lots of kids. Depending on the Johnson meeting, we might have 20 or 25 there. I have going to be 13 students are going to attend.
Any questions? Mr. Duvall?
And what's the cost per student on this?
300. The actual cost is somewhat more than that, but the money that is donated to us by the Cranberry, well, it's actually by the VA events that runs the Cranberry Half Marathon for doing water stations, we use to offset part of the cost. For the students, we pay $300 each.
That's excellent. Any other questions? Anybody care to make a motion for Mr. Dixon's trip since?
I move that we approve the trip.
Thank you. And a second?
Second?
Thank you. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? That is unanimous. priceless time.
Let me thank you, and we thank you also special for doing it on short notice, and thank you, Barbara, for getting it in. We actually only had the details of this conference posted last Wednesday, so once I had the details posted, I knew the dates were firm. I acted as quickly as I could, but that meant that things were happening quickly, so I appreciate you fitting it in.
Very good.
Thank you very much.
Fly safe.
All right, so let's see, make sure we're not missing anything. All right, we are down to a couple of action items. We have some surplus equipment. Ms. Long, did I hear you say you'd like to make the motion? Tonight, she got off duty tonight. Go ahead, Ms. Long.
Forget my speech. Let's see, what school was this first one? Middle school. I move disposal of surplus materials from Monomoy Regional Middle School, currently by the garage, fencing, approximately 25 posts and 50 rails. And I move the disposal of surplus materials from Harwich Elementary School, 10 27-inch color TVs.
Thank you. Anybody second that?
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? That is unanimous. And we move on to our payment of prior year invoices. We do have a list of those. Does that have any questions from Ms. Vicernio about those? Or would somebody care to make a motion?
I move that
Mr.
we
Law.
approve prior expenditures of $87 to Dennis Osimo and $175 to Fuel Education.
Thank you. Any discussion? Questions? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? And that is unanimous as well, and that reaches the, yes, Mr. Russell?
It's a different topic, but it reminds me to make a comment regarding the old usage fences and poles. Noticing our new split rail fence out there at the Monomoy Regional High School, I just have to commend the crew that put that fencing up. I think it adds, not only, I think the intention was to enhance a little bit the safety of the fields out front, but also aesthetically, I think they add a nice boundary to this property. So just a little more frosting on the nice cake.
I would agree. Thank you for bringing that up. It does look lovely. All right, so the only thing we have left in our agenda is to adjourn into an executive session to discuss strategy with respect to non-union contract negotiations, and we will be coming out for adjournment only. Would anybody care to make said motion?
So move.
In a second?
Second?
And roll call vote, Ms. Richardson.
Aye.
Mr. Russell.
Yes.
Ms. Long. Aye. Ms. Stout. Aye. Mr. DeVol.
Aye.
And the chair says aye, and that is unanimous, so we'll be going into executive session. Thank you very much. Well, it is 7:37.
That.